Someone asks you for something, and before you've even thought about it, you hear yourself say yes. Of course, happy to. No problem. And the second the words are out, something tightens in your chest. A flicker of resentment you'd never say out loud. You didn't want to. You said yes anyway. And then you're angry. At them a little. At yourself more. This is the loop, and you've been running it for years.
Before you feel bad about any of this, stay with me, because that flash of resentment is not the problem here. It's the clue. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to show you where the automatic yes actually comes from, why it kept running long after you needed it, and how the very resentment you're ashamed of is the thing that leads you back to yourself. There is a way out of the loop. It starts with understanding it. So don't go anywhere.
And I want to say one thing before we go any further, because I think you've been carrying this quietly for a long time. That resentment doesn't mean you're a bitter person or an ungrateful one, or someone who secretly doesn't love the people she says yes to. It means something much simpler and much more hopeful than that. It means a part of you has been paying attention the whole time, keeping honest count of every yes that cost you something, and has been waiting patiently for you to finally listen. Let's be clear about what this is, because people-pleasing makes it sound polite and small. What you're actually doing is abandoning yourself in real time. Every automatic yes is a tiny moment where you knew what you wanted and you overrode it to keep someone else comfortable. The resentment that follows isn't you being petty. It's the part of you that got overruled, filing a complaint. Sit with that word for a second. Overruled, because there are two of you in that moment the request lands. There's the one who feels the honest answer quick and clear before you've had time to manage it, and there's the one who steps in a half second later and says the acceptable thing instead. Most of your life, the second one has been winning. So fast, so automatically, that you've stopped noticing there was ever a vote.
You know the moment I mean. The text comes in, and your thumb is already typing, "Sure, no problem," before you've checked whether you actually have the time, or the energy, or the want. The favor you agreed to that's now sitting on your calendar like a small stone. The plan you didn't want to make. And underneath the easy yes, a quiet voice saying, "I didn't want to do that." You just talked right over it. Again.
And here's what makes it so hard to catch in the act. From the outside, it looks like kindness. It looks like being easy to be around, being low maintenance, being the one who never makes a fuss. You've been praised for it your whole life, which means the very thing that's quietly draining you is also the thing everyone keeps telling you is your best quality. No wonder you never stop to question it. Here's the loop in slow motion. The request comes. You feel a flash of no, but no feels dangerous. So you bury it under a yes before it can fully form. You follow through because you always do, and then the buried no comes back as resentment leaking out sideways in your tone, in your tiredness, in the quiet score you're keeping that the other person doesn't even know about. The anger was always there. You just sent it underground. Let me slow that down even further, because every step of it happens in about a second and a half, and the speed is the whole problem. The request lands somewhere in your body. Before any words, a true answer forms, and a lot of the time that answer is no, or not now, or not like this. But no has a cost you learned to fear a long time ago, so you don't let it finish forming. You cover it. The yes comes out smooth and quick, and the moment passes, and everyone's comfortable, and you've gotten very good at making it look effortless. But nothing you bury actually leaves. The no you didn't say doesn't dissolve. It goes underground and travels, and it always comes back up, somewhere you weren't watching, wearing a different name. It comes back as the edge in your voice you didn't plan, as the exhaustion that doesn't match how much you slept, as the running tally you keep of everything you've done for people who have no idea a tally exists. That's not a flaw in your wiring. That's the completely predictable return of something real that got pushed down instead of spoken. The automatic yes is almost always old.
Somewhere you learned that your no was unwelcome, that disagreeing, disappointing, or wanting something different put a relationship at risk. So you became fluent in yes, agreeable, easy, low maintenance. It kept the peace when you were small and couldn't afford conflict. The trouble is, the yes kept running long after the danger was gone.
Picture the child who learned that. Maybe your no was met with a door slammed, or a cold silence that lasted days, or a face that fell in a way that made you feel like you'd done something unforgivable just by wanting something of your own. Maybe it was quieter than that, just a steady sense that love in your house flowed toward the easy child, the helpful one, the one who didn't add to the load. So you read the room the way children do, and you found the safest way to belong. You made yourself agreeable, and it worked. That's the part one don't want you to miss. It worked. A small person in a situation she didn't choose found a real strategy for staying safe and staying connected, and she ran it beautifully. There is nothing to be ashamed of in that. The problem isn't that you learned to say yes. The problem is that no one ever told you the danger had passed. So the strategy kept running into your friendships, your marriage, your work, your parenting, long after you became an adult who can actually survive someone's disappointment. You're not running a character flaw. You're running a childhood rule that forgot to expire. And we have to be honest about what this costs, because you can't decide to change something until you've let yourself feel why it matters.
Here's what the automatic yes quietly costs you. Every time you agree when you mean no, the people in your life get the easy version of you, the accommodating one, the one who never makes anything hard, and they never get to meet the real one, the one with actual preferences and limits. You end up surrounded by people who love a version of you that you built to keep them comfortable. That's a lonely kind of company. And the resentment? That's just the bill coming due.
Let that land, because it's the quiet heartbreak underneath all of this. It isn't only that you're tired or overextended or doing more than your share, though you are. It's that the closeness you've worked so hard for has a stranger standing in the middle of it. The people you love are in relationship with your accommodation, not with you. And some part of you knows it, which is why even their gratitude can feel hollow. They're thanking the manager you sent in your place. The real you has been standing quietly behind her the whole time, unmet, keeping score.
Most people think the resentment is the problem. It isn't. The resentment is information. It's the most honest signal you have, telling you exactly where you said yes when you meant no. If you stop treating it as a character flaw to be ashamed of and start treating it as data, it becomes the map back to your own wants. Your resentment knows your boundaries before you do.
This is the turn, so let me say it as plainly as I can. For your whole life, you've treated that flare of resentment as evidence that something is wrong with you, proof you're selfish or petty or not as loving as you're supposed to be. And so you've done the natural thing. You've tried to smother it, to talk yourself out of it, to feel guilty for feeling it at all. But you've been trying to silence the one part of you that has been telling the truth this entire time. Because resentment doesn't fire at random. It fires with precision. It lights up at exactly the places you crossed your own line. The yes that wasn't yours to give, the favor that cost more than you had, the plan you agreed to while everything in you leaned away. Plotted out, all those flares stop looking like a character defect and start looking like a map. Each one marks a spot where your own wants were, buried under an agreement. You don't have to manufacture boundaries out of nowhere, you already have them. Your resentment has been standing on every one of them, waving, waiting for you to look. So how do you actually use the map? Not with a dramatic confrontation, not by becoming a person who bristles at every request. The change is much smaller and much quieter than that.
A boundary doesn't have to be a confrontation. It can be a pause. Let me check and get back to you. That one sentence breaks the loop because it puts a gap between the request and the reflex. Just enough room for your real answer to show up. You will feel guilty the first 100 times you don't say yes. Guilt is not proof you did something wrong. It's just the feeling of an old rule being broken.
That's the entire mechanism, right there in one sentence. The yes has always won because it was fast, faster than your true answer, faster than your own thought. So you don't have to fight it head on. You just have to slow the moment down. A pause doesn't commit you to no. It doesn't make you difficult. It simply reopens the vote you stopped holding years ago and gives the honest part of you a half second to actually get to the microphone. Let me check and get back to you. Practice it now, out loud if you have to, until it's as automatic as the yes used to be. And when the guilt comes, and it will come, hot and immediate the first dozens of times, I need you to recognize it for what it is. It is not a signal that you've hurt someone. It's the old alarm going off, the one installed in a child who couldn't afford conflict, firing now over a danger that no longer exists. You don't have to obey it. You don't even have to argue with it. You just have to let it ring. Keep your pause and notice that the sky doesn't fall. Do that a few times, and the alarm slowly learns the war is over. Now, I want to be careful here, because there's a way to hear all of this that turns it into one more thing to fail at. You are not going to catch every automatic yes. You'll hear yourself agree to something and feel the resentment rise before you've even hung up the phone and think, I did it again. So let me take that whip out of your hand right now. The goal was never to become a person who never says yes. Yes is a beautiful word when it's true. The goal is to close the gap between what you feel and what you say, so that when a yes comes out of you, it's actually yours, and when a no is the truth, it gets a fair hearing instead of an automatic burial. Some days you'll manage it. Some days you won't, and you'll agree to something you'll quietly resent, and that resentment will simply be more data pointing at one more place to practice next time. There is no failing here. There's just noticing a little sooner each time. And you may find, as this gets easier, that some of the relationships in your life were quietly built on your inability to say no. That's worth knowing too, not as a tragedy, but as information. The people who love the real you will adjust. A little surprised, maybe, but glad to finally be dealing with someone who's actually there. And the ones who only wanted the easy, endlessly available version, well, you're allowed to learn that too. Better to know who's in the room with you than to keep an entire self hidden just to keep the numbers up. Because underneath every automatic yes is a belief you've never quite said out loud, that your welcome here is conditional, that you get to stay as long as you're easy, as long as you're useful, as long as you don't ask for too much or push back too hard. That belief was true once in a house you didn't choose. It is not true now in the life you've actually built, and the only way you find that out is by testing it. By saying the small, honest no and watching who stays, and they do stay. That's the thing nobody promises you, because you have to feel it to believe it. When you start giving people your real answers, the good ones don't leave, they lean in. It turns out people can sense the difference between being managed and being met, and most of them have been starving for the second one from you without knowing how to ask. Your honesty gives them permission to be honest back. The relationship gets less smooth and infinitely more real. That trade, a little friction for actual closeness, is one you will never regret making. So the work of this isn't to become harder or colder or armored against the people you love. It's the opposite. It's to finally bring the whole of yourself into the room, the wants, the limits, the honest no, along with the honest yes, and to discover that you were always allowed to, that you were never as fragile and your welcome was never as conditional as the frightened child who learned to disappear behind a yes once believed.
You're allowed to want what you want. You're allowed to say no and still be a kind person. Those two things were never actually in conflict. The yes kept you safe once, but you're not protecting a frightened child anymore. You're quietly betraying a capable adult. Every honest no is you, finally, taking your own side. Before I let you go, if any of this landed, do me one small thing. Like this video so it finds the next person who's saying yes when they mean no. Subscribe if you'd like to keep doing this quiet work together. And tell me in the comments, what's the one yes you're finally ready to make a no? I read every one. Then tap the bell so the next video finds you.
And this week, before the next video, I want you to try the smallest version of all of this. The next time a request lands and you feel that quick flicker of no, don't override it. Just pause. Let me check and get back to you. 5 words. Feel the guilt rise and let it ring, and give your real answer the half second it's been waiting years for. That's where you start taking your own side. I'll see you next time.